Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and we are officially in the scariest month of the year, so get ready for a month-long horrific coverage of comics on my What Is series. And make sure to stay tuned for my 5-week-long series, Nightmare Arcade, where each week I play a different horror game. Check it out. It might already be out. I don't know when this video is getting released in October. But this also means that I am going to be delaying, putting off, taking a break from the Ultimate Year and my Squadron Supreme coverage. Don't worry, they'll be back in November as a Thanksgiving Day miracle. Not releasing only on Thanksgiving, of course. And I know what y'all want, and it is to see superheroes get turned into horrible ghouls that feed on human flesh. But you're gonna have to wait for Marvel Zombies. Because I'm talking about all these DC zombies! That's right, it's been over 5 years since this series came out somehow. How does time work? I'll never know. And I figured that's been more than enough time for people to have checked out DCEASED. Deceased. But before we get started, make sure to leave this video a like and subscribe for more content just like this, and leave me some recommendations, suggestions on Ultimate Marvel comics that I should cover once the spooky October month is over. Released in 2019, written by Tom Taylor with art by Trevor Harrison and inks by Stefano Gaudiano, this is DCEASED. The book begins in seemingly the New 52 Darkseid War, or at least a close approximation of it, I guess. Because that's a story that I really wanted to be reminded of. Anyway, with the lasso of truth around his neck, Wonder Woman orders Darkseid to leave, and Darkseid stands up, tells them that he will not return to Earth because he got what he came here for. Then he disappears into a boom tube. And a few moments later, Batman's little device sounds off, and he's alerted that Cyborg is missing. Black Lightning says that he last saw Cyborg in Metropolis fighting parademons, and Batman reveals that he's not on Earth. Cut to a beautifully contrasting art shift on Apocalypse. I really like how this little section of the book looks. It's wonderful. Cyborg has been abducted and crucified by this horrific-looking version of DCEASED, who is questioning Victor Stone on his knowledge of the anti-life equation. DCEASED informs him of what it is, the end of all free will. Then Darkseid rocks up and Cyborg starts cracking jokes, and DCEASED is ordered to remove his tongue. Cyborg salivates blood as Darkseid inserts the mother box into his chest, and DCEASED exposits that the mother box and Cyborg will combine the two halves of the anti-life equation that they contain. But if Cyborg dies, and it's very likely because he's just a dude, the anti-life equation is going to be gone forever. So Darkseid summons the Black Racer, the death of the new gods. And Darkseid immediately grabs hold of him, and DCEASED siphons the energy force directly into Cyborg. The anti-life equation begins forming, but it is quickly corrupted. Darkseid's infected. DCEASED removes Cyborg from the planet via a boom tube, just as Darkseid destroys the Black Racer and Apocalypse itself. And back on Earth, the art unfortunately has to return to something a little more mainstream. Cyborg drops out of the boom tube, and then the plot of Stephen King's 2006 novel Cell plays out. Cyborg's mainframe or whatever just like connects, I guess, to every satellite network on Earth and carries the corrupted anti-life equation across the globe to anyone who's using a phone, computer, any piece of technology, and millions are infected within seconds, I guess. Also, I highly recommend Cell, by the way. A lot of people don't like it. I really dug it. It's a very unique take on the zombie apocalypse. It's a Stephen King novel, so it's gonna be good. Don't watch the movie, though, because it is terrible. Anyway, at the home of Scott-Free and Big Barda, Superman gets their help after the Justice League have realized that Cyborg is on Apocalypse, and then he hears screaming in the distance. And, yeah, he finds what's going on. Meanwhile, at the apartment of Lois and Clark Kent, Lois searches for her cellular telephone as John and Damian play some video games, and John uses his X-ray vision to find the phone propped up on a bowl of oranges for some reason. Then Clark lasers it from John's hands and destroys the TV. Meanwhile, in the Batcave, Batman connects to the backup analog camera system he's installed around Gotham and speaks to the Bat computer, which is running on a local intranet. It calculates that currently 600 million worldwide are infected, and that it'll take but days before billions are infected. Then he realizes that there's still some minor connections open in the home, and he orders a EMP in the manor. Back in Metropolis, Bruce is not answering Damien's calls. Clark reassures him that his father has contingencies in plan and everything's gonna be fine. And meanwhile, Bruce races through the manor, calling out for Alfred, and he eventually finds him in the kitchen fending off an infected Nightwing. As Bruce fends off the infected Dick, Tim appears behind him and sinks his teeth into his mentor's wrist. Bruce orders Alfred to run to the cave and lock himself inside as Nightwing plunges his claws and teeth into him. And meanwhile, in the ocean, Aquaman gets taken out by a crew of infected, like a chump. He just gets fucking clobbered by a group of zombies, falls into the ocean, and swims away. Meanwhile, Damien and John have suited up as Lois and Clark try to figure out what they're gonna do. Clark says that he needs to go to Smallville. And elsewhere in Gotham, Harley and Ivy stand in the back alley. Harley's working herself up to tell the Joker that she is through with him, and Ivy kisses her on the cheek and tells her that she's strong enough to do this. Then she heads off to the Botanical Gardens. Harley finally heads inside and finds Joker seated in front of a bunch of television screens, unaware that he's been infected. In the outskirts of Metropolis, Hal Jordan and Green Lantern, Oliver Queen, Green Arrow, and Dinah Lance, Black Canary, have gone camping. I guess for some reason. I don't know why it's just why all these people are in Metropolis. They have their own lives in their own cities. Maybe it's because they just saved the world from the whole apocalypse, Darkseid War thing. They're in town. They want to get some rest and relaxation. Let's go camping. I guess that makes sense, right? Anyway, Hal hates it, and Ollie jokes that he's just weak-willed. But Hal says that he's going to turn in for the night and heads to his tent. Then Green Arrow plays his bow like a guitar as Dinah sings, and Hal sits in his tent on his phone. And then the two hear an animalistic snarl erupt from the tent, and the area explodes in green light. The lantern ring begins alarming that lethal force is not sanctioned, as the now infected Hal Jordan attempts to kill Ollie and Dinah. But she uses her supersonic voice on him and just ruptures his brain, I guess, and Hal falls to the ground. The ring announces that the Green Lantern of Sector 2814 is deceased, and scans for replacement, before finding it in Dinah Lance, and she becomes the new Green Lantern. I really like that. That's a cool, she looks good. I like the Dinah Lance. There's a lot of cool stuff you'll see her do. Elsewhere, the Clarks and Damien arrive at the Daily Planet, hoping it's a safe refuge. You know, this giant building staffed with hundreds of people in the middle of a city during a viral apocalypse. Obviously, it's not. Clark scans the building and realizes it's swarming with monsters, but before he can act, he hears something, another scream, and instructs John to keep watch over the two until he gets back. Superman arrives to find Dinah and Ollie in the woods, and he says he heard her scream and that they need to get moving. The trio return to the Daily Planet just as Bruce's voice comes in over the radio that Damien has.
Bats, man, what is happening? Hal just turned into a freaking zombie and tried to kill us. They're not zombies. They're not consumed by hunger. They're not feeding. They're spreading death, stealing life. These things are the anti-living, and the trigger is an equation. Well, I always knew math would doom us all. I've been infected, and I'm almost out of time. I've quarantined myself in one of Mr. Freeze's old suits. Hopefully, it'll slow down the virus from spreading. But if not, I have Alfred on standby.
Bruce.
There is no time for sentiment, Clark. It's a technological, biological hybrid, and it can transfer through blood or digital imagery. To save the world, you're going to have to destroy any human carriers, and you're going to have to take down the internet. I always knew we'd have to destroy the internet to save the world. I didn't know it'd be like this, but come on! You are Batman! Batman isn't gonna get taken out by a virus! You're gonna sacrifice yourself, outwitting an evil as old as the stars while you save the galaxy, or something. There isn't anything I can do. Damien, Alfred has something for you. It's something I always wanted to give you. Something I know you would have earned one day. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I won't see you.
Father? Dad?
Master Bruce? Computer. Cease transmission. I'm so sorry, son. An hour or so later, Alfred has packed his belongings on his person, retrieved Bruce's gift to Damien, and laid his 3 boys to rest together in the Batcave. He apologizes for not being able to save them, and enters the cockpit of the Batwing. Then he flies it over Gotham and unleashes a bomb and run! One of the targets just happens to be near Harley Quinn, who is now running for her life from the Joker. She comes across a man with a shotgun who is overwhelmed quickly by infected, grabs the shotgun, and continues her fleeing. The Joker begins to gain on her, and Harley spins around and blasts Joker with her boomstick. Then she cheers about how goddamn cathartic that was, and begins to walk off to find Ivy, when Batgirl, Batwoman, Catwoman, and Huntress leaps into the alley.
I guess we're going bird hunting. Back! Get back! Aw, nuts. Whoa! That was pretty romantic.
Crushing the undead is romantic.
Saving my life is romantic. Crushing the undead is just a delightful bonus.
Meanwhile, Damien sits alone on the Daily Planet rooftop when John walks over to sit next to him. Superman tells Lois that he really needs to get home to his parents and make sure that they're okay. Then he scans the planet building for everyone who isn't infected, moves at super speed to remove the infected, and blocks the entrance with the globe, and then flies away. Meanwhile, in Atlantis, Mara and Garth are just kind of hanging out, and he notices that it's suddenly getting darker. Mara looks up and discovers her husband leading blood-hungry sharks in a horribly bloody attack upon the Atlanteans. The blood drifts down through the currents and surrounds Garth, who is immediately infected and driven mad as he rips off his own face. Mara defends herself against the infected Atlanteans and swims away, leaving another one of her homes. Superman flies through Metropolis, working the best he can to save whoever he can, and then he comes across this awful sight. An infected monstrous clay face thing attacking Black Lightning, who just happens to be in a helicopter. Superman saves Lightning and his family and instructs him to head to the Daily Planet, then he soars off. And eventually he arrives at Kent Farm and finds his mother holding a shovel in fear. And she tells him that Jonathan is in the barn and that she hit him with the shovel. Clark opens the barn, walks inside, finds that the cellar door is shattering against the rageful strikes of his now infected father. He opens the doors, and what was Jonathan Kent erupts out, slashing at Clark. Clark grabs him, pushes him back into the cellar, shuts the door, and shoots his laser vision downward. Then he collects his mother and flies back to Metropolis. Cut to Washington, D.C. Amanda Waller and Captain Atom, guess where this is going? Stand above the corpse of an anti-living zombie thing, strapped to a table. They're waiting for Ray Palmer, the Atom, who's currently inside of the creature's system doing some sort of investigation about the virus. Waller informs Atom that Plague Protocol C has been ordered and gives him a map of the worst affected areas to hit. And he does just that. But later, as he continues his cleansing of the pandemic, he hears a voice calling out to him. And Captain Atom radios to Waller that something's going on inside of him, and inside his body, the Atom rides his blood cells and infects Captain Atom at a microscopic cell, and the virus eventually reaches Captain Atom's brain, and he screams in agony. Back in Metropolis, Clark and Ma return. Lois reveals that while he was gone, the rooftop group and the survivors inside the building set up an analog broadcast to call to survivors and provide information. Superman says that he has to get back out there, but Green Arrow and Lantern tell him that's not happening. They're not going to risk him getting infected or something bad happening to them that they can't defeat without him. And so Lois broadcasts her message, noting that any heroes, or I suppose villains, anybody who can help and is powerful enough to make their way to Metropolis because the Justice League is forming up there. Meanwhile, in Themyscira, Mara has arrived to find support of Hippolyta. And for some reason... the Amazonians just have an old radio on a plinth, which happens to pick up Lois's broadcast, which makes Wonder Woman leave for Metropolis. Look, I get you need Wonder Woman in this, and Themyscira comes up later, but surely you could have come up with something better than just an old radio on a plinth. Later in Keystone City, Superman and Green Lantern search for the Flashes. Eventually they find them in an old storeroom. Barry shouts that they aren't supposed to leave and that they can't leave, because Batman contacted them very early on in the outbreak and told them that they need to stay put, because if they get infected, then everyone is fucked. But Superman and Green Lantern convince them otherwise. Back at the planet, Lois continues to repeat her broadcast when John hears something, and the others soon hearing it as well. Giganta. Green Arrow and Black Lantern unload on the massive creature as John laser visions her head, and then she's struck by several rockets deployed from the Batwing. She slams the Batwing out of the sky, but Green Lantern catches it as Superman takes down Giganta, and Wonder Woman arrives and tries to finish off the job, but Superman stops her and says that if this really is an infection, it can be cured, but her head is blown up by Cyborg.
She wasn't alive. None of them are. We need to talk.
Afterward, Damian races to the Batwing, where he finds Alfred, opens up the case, and gives him his father's gift.
They're an extension of the anti-life equation. The blighted ones want to spread death, nothing more. And they will search for life. They can sense it. They will find it, and they will end it, meaning that we cannot stay here, or else we'll just continue to attract them.
Hawkgirl falls from the sky with burning wings. Wonder Woman soars up and catches her, and as she returns to the rooftop, Hawkgirl reveals that Captain Atom has turned, and, in a shocker to everyone, is going to blow up. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the Atom blows up, and then he's grabbed by both Wonder Woman and Superman, but they're too late. Washington is destroyed in seconds, and the blast wave keeps growing. Baltimore's ravaged, and the blast wave keeps growing until it reaches Metropolis. Later, Superman and Wonder Woman hover over the ruined landscape. They rush back to Metropolis and find that Green Lantern encapsulated the section of the Daily Planet that contained the survivors inside. See, I told you, she's a really good Green Lantern. Anyway, then Lex Luthor shows up, calls a truce, falls to his knees, and admonishes what happened to their city. And for the next few days, the Justice League worked to take down the internet, destroying servers, broadcasting devices, satellites, oceanic cables, and 2 major sanctuaries are established. One being Themyscira, which Superman, Wonder Woman, and Mara lift off of the ocean floor to provide more landmass to. The other is Gotham. It's now a jungle with an impenetrable wall of thorns controlled by Poison Ivy, who, reluctantly, after Harley's nagging and the Justice League pleading to her, allows the jungle to be a refuge. There's, like, no real sense of time how long this is taking. Because Damian doesn't really change that much. I don't know if I missed something when I was reading it, or what. What's the time scale? What's the time frame of this book? Because they are now at the Fortress of Solitude, where there's all these new heroes, controlled by Cyborg and Lex Luthor, and they're working on the construction plans of interstellar ships that will fit 7 million people each. And time just passes by in Gotham and Paradise City as it becomes inhabited by survivors. And as we see later, life kind of returns to normal in the Gotham section, seemingly, because, like, there's just regular people walking by, going about on their day-to-day basis. So, like, is it years? It can't be years, because Damian and John look the exact same throughout the whole book. Is it a year? I guess they have a lot of superheroes that are still active, like making the ships. Is it ever stated? That's what I want to know. Let me know in the comments. Maybe it's in one of the other books that I haven't read from this series. Anyway, one day Firestorm hears someone and everybody winces in pain as a mental frequency rampages through their ears, and Lex Luthor is bisected by the Martian Manhunter. Manhunter slashes his massive Martian claws through Barry Allen as the entire League scramble into a panicked resistance. Manhunter transforms into a massive abomination, but Firestorm unleashes his full powers on the creature and renders it a crisp corpse. Then Wally realizes that Barry is gone. Superman uses his super sight to find him, and he's already leaving the Arctic. Wally tries to leave after him, but Clark stops him. And in a matter of a few minutes, the Flash finds every ounce of life he can and extinguishes it. Superman soars through the stratosphere, tracking what was once his friend Barry Allen's rampage, and flies at supersonic speeds in a trajectory that is perfectly in line, and destroys him. And afterward, Clark hovers above the ocean and realizes that Barry's fingers pierced into his abdomen. Oh my God, Superman! What happened?
Wally, I'm so sorry. Barry's gone. And so am I. Wally, I need you to connect Lois, Ma, and John to the Speed Force. Can you do that for me? Please.
Yeah, of course.
Ma, thank you for finding me, for raising me, for teaching me. And thank you for giving me your name, your values, your empathy. My world ended, and you and Pa gave me another. Lois, I have absolutely no regrets. And I honestly don't know how I got so lucky. I crossed an ocean of stars and somehow I found you. Thank you for choosing me.
Oh, thank you for choosing me.
John, I know things look dark, but you're the light. You're the hope. And you are going to change the universe. No pressure. Just keep helping. You'll make mistakes. Sometimes you'll fail. But I will always be proud of you.
Come on, Clark. You need to go. Get as far away from possible. You have to starve yourself of oxygen before the virus can take over. Come on, faster, go! I'm not gonna make it. At the Fortress of Solitude, the remaining members of the core Justice League concoct a plan of action. Cyborg says that they need to man the arcs immediately and prepare to leave Earth. Lois raises the valid point that Superman can take down both arcs in a second. And Wonder Woman poses the idea that they have to take him down first. Then Damian reveals his father's contingency plans. And inside one of the pockets of Damian's belt that Bruce had prepared is a crystal of kryptonite, and schematics for a device which would turn it into gas. However, Diana expertly points out in this plan that it was meant to, no doubt, incapacitate Superman, whereas now they need to kill him. So, she comes up with an idea and brings Dinah and Cyborg with her, and orders everyone else to attend the arcs in Gotham and Paradise Island. And later in Kal-El's forge, Wonder Woman grasps the Sword of Athena with the kryptonite, melding together two of Superman's greatest weaknesses: magic and a glowing green rock. In Gotham, Barry and Damian prepare to board as 6 million people enter the Ark, and Ivy and Harley reveal that they're staying behind. After what I imagine are at least a few hours of boarding later, they watch as Ark 1 leaves the Earth. And around the same time, at Paradise Island, the Ark is being boarded when a massive eruption from the sea breaks out, and the infected Atlantean army is led by a Kraken-riding Aquaman, who's immediately shot through the skull from a half-mile away in raging winds by the world's truly greatest marksman, Oliver Queen Green Arrow. The Amazonians fend off the attacking Atlanteans as Cyborg, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern arrive to confront the now-infected Superman. Green Lantern expertly uses her abilities by making a massive megaphone with her ring and using her supersonic scream into it. And back at Paradise Island, the Amazonians are slowly overtaken as the Ark prepares to take off, and the final heroes begin to board. It's okay. I've got her.
Superman, he's gone. He saw the arcs. You have to stop him.
I'll stay until
Vic, you can't.
No, the virus started with me. I was never coming with you. Now get going! My dad, he's coming. That's not your father. I know. Is there anything I can do? Look after my mom for me, please? Of course. Yeah. You're gonna be a great Batman, Damien. Attention! Green Lantern of Sector 2814. The cavalry's arrived! Dinah gives Guy Gardner the rundown of what happened, and the Guardian, whatever his dumb little blue name is, announces that the Green Lantern Corps is officially quarantining Earth. Then they realize that the armless Superman is just watching them. Terrifying sight, and the entire Corps prepares themselves. But then Superman races away from him. The Corps chases him down until they realize where he's flying to. The sun. The being that was once Superman begins absorbing the energy of the sun itself. The Guardian tells Dinah that their light isn't powerful enough to reach into the heart of a star, but he posits that if the creature truly does absorb all the energy of the star into itself, it's gonna kill the star completely, rendering the solar system frozen, and the virus will seemingly go dormant. Then the Corps escort the Arcs through space to a new world. I have a question. And the lasso compels you. Can you speak?
We have a voice.
Is there a way to stop you?
We are death. Nothing can stop death.
You're a virus. Is there a cure?
Yeah.
What is it? Where is it? Where?
The cure is you. You are man and machine. The perfect binary. Patient zero and the one. Alpha and Omega.
No. No. But that means everyone we ended, they didn't have to die. God, the Arcs. I have to reach the Arcs!
Everything dies.
Later, deep within the cosmos, Lois and Jonathan Kent watch as the star Sol disappears into the vast echoes of space. And eventually, the Arcs arrive on a new world that they call Earth 2. The end. I hope you enjoyed this book. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. I actually never finished reading DCEASED when it came out, which was the last time that I read it 5 years ago. So this was a wonderful surprise. Tom Taylor, fantastic writer. I think I enjoy everything that he does that I do read. The art style does work very well for the story that's being told, although I absolutely love whatever the fuck is happening on Apocalypse. I like the implication as well that Apocalypse is just outside of reality, so it's just a completely different visual experience. It's ironically enough, the art is full of life on Apocalypse. I also love how everything gets gray when Clark is infected. It's how they visualize Barry and Superman within the Speed Force, which I'll let slide. I don't fucking remember what is up with Blackberry and how he works or whatever. I don't know. I never bothered reading New 52 and all that shit. But the fact that it occurs like that after he is infected is just such a haunting visual, because everything just goes gray except for the people that Clark cares about the most, Ma, Lois, and John. Where does this compare to Marvel Zombies for me? I feel like that might be a big question. You know, I cover the Marvel Zombies stuff on the channel. It's a couple of my highest watched videos on the channel, Marvel Zombies. I'm the Marvel Zombies guy, hopefully. This story conveys far more emotional weight than Marvel Zombies ever does. Sure, we get something with, like, Spider-Man and Black Panther and Marvel Zombies 2, but it's mostly surface level, and a lot of it is just played up. Even something like Hank Pym in the first one sneaking away into the city to a secret lab where he eats a drugged-up Black Panther bit by bit just doesn't come across with the same level of veracity as I think it would have if it was in this, if something like that happened in this. They're just, the tones are totally different. Marvel Zombies, the first volume, it just really tells a non-stop action story that focuses entirely on the zombies rather than caring about, you know, what's like really going on with any survivors, if there are any, which, you know, we eventually learn, yeah, there are. But even in Volume 2, when we see the survivors and they're the main focus and it's decades later and we're following what's happening to them, it is so far removed from any semblance of reality or normalcy that it's just pure sci-fi. And that's why I love zombie movies that take place during or around the outbreak. Train to Busan being an excellent example, one of my favorite examples. It's because the outbreak in these films is the most relatable aspect of a zombie movie, of a monster movie, anything like that. We witness life go from what we all know, understand, and accept as reality, which is why I think DCEASED works better. Although there are Marvel Zombie stories that take place closer to the outbreak, so we do get to see the reactions of what is happening. There's a couple of them, actually. It happens a couple times. I think, as someone whose favorite aspect of like a zombie story is the denigration and just life as we know it being turned on its head, DCEASED processes the story a lot better. But something I noticed about this that I didn't really pay attention to when I first read it is that the characters are just, they feel like caricatures of the DC characters that we all know and are familiar with. They're the idea of the character more so than the character themselves. Like Lex Luthor, once they're in the fortress, he says that he's the world's smartest man, double checks that Batman is in fact dead, and then continues with his spiel about how he's the world's smartest man and he knows what he's talking about. Yes, it's funny, but it just seems like it's such a basic idea of who Lex Luthor really is. Of course, it doesn't matter in the end because most of the characters who are treated in such a way are horribly killed off or just don't really show up. Lex Luthor, for example, is horribly murdered just a couple pages later. And then we're left with these secondary and tertiary characters of the DC universe who go on to become the protagonists of the DCeased world. But that's no reason to lower the dimensions of a character just because they're about to be killed. So really, that's my biggest issue, I think, with this comic. At least these first 6 issues. Like I said, I haven't read the other spin-offs and sequels and whatnot. But those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comments below. Follow my socials. Check out my Etsy shop, blaketwl.etsy.com, where both issues of the Custodians are on sale now, as well as all 5 issues of Destructo Boy, a fun sci-fi series. And every purchase on my Etsy comes with a free head sketch of any character of your choosing. Check out my Patreon for early access to videos. Check out all the Halloween videos up there now. Commentaries, art, other stuff I can't even remember. Follow me on social media at NotBlakeWild and check out my podcast, the Comic Shtick Podcast, where comics are my shtick. And I will see you next time. Bye. All right, here's the zombie birds of prey. This is what I do for this YouTube channel.